Hello everybody. In this screencast we're going to look at how to make GET requests and also pass parameters. And remember, as a reminder, if you look, let's go back to the contacts API that we looked at, or the contact services that we looked at, and you can see that we had contacts. This gets you the list of contacts, and that's a GET request, and it doesn't have any parameters. You see here there is empty parameters. Let me close this one. You had the search. The search, you can provide GET parameters or the URL parameters, and you could see that they are in the URL. Now the question is that how do I manage these URL parameters? So one idea is to copy this and to stitch it. So basically I could just take it and do it like this, right? And the interesting thing is that these parameters are now in the URL. The interesting thing is that usually these parameters are going to be provided by the user. The user is going to enter something in the search. I want to search for this, or in the filter that the user is going to pick. And then these are going to be coming in through the user input. Now, the problem is that to ensure that these URLs are encoded correctly, you cannot just do this. It's going to work in this case, but there are cases which is not going to work, especially when there is space or special characters, and then the encoding is not going to work. But this one is going to work fine. So we go here. We did run it. I did run it. When I go look at the logcat, it should print something, and you see it's printing something here, right? So it did print that there is one user with this name, right? So okay, that's good. So now if we run this, you see that it returns this line, and the same thing is being returned here, which is okay, right? Now, when you are going to make these GET requests, you have to be able to pass parameters. And when we are going to pass parameters, we are not going to do it like this, right? Basically, let's say you have, for example, the name is a string, let's say a string name that's going to come in somehow from someplace, maybe the user input. Let's say in this case it was RH, right? And we had a string type, and the type was home in that case, right? Okay. So now what is going to happen if somebody wants to stitch these things together? They're going to do it like this. Maybe they're going to do here and then add RH to this guy like this, and then they're going to put the AND sign because these are key and value, right? So this is the name, right? They're going to add the name here, and then they will do the same thing to the type by just doing a type here, and they're creating and stitching these together. And this is going to fail at some stage because of the encoding. If the user enters something that has a space or has an equal sign or question mark or something, it's going to cause a problem when it's being parsed. So to solve this problem, we need to use the URL builder. So basically there is an HTTP URL. We need to create that, and you do that by saying HTTP, and you parse, and you pass it the base string with anything before the question mark. Okay, you do it here, and then you say new builder. That gets you a builder, and then in the builder you could add what? Add a query parameter, and the query parameter has two variables. You see in the name and the value. So this is the name and the value. So basically in my case here, the name is name, and the value is the parameter, the variable name. And the same story here, add query parameter type, and the variable name is type. Okay, and build. So this safely creates a URL for you, and it's going to take care of the encoding. Basically, it will create the URL for you and take care of the encoding, and you do that when if you want to use that URL, you just do it like this. You say URL, whatever URL you created here, you use it, and let's run it and see. Let's look at, and we're getting the same thing here. All right. So basically, that's how you create URL or pass parameters in a GET request. So to pass parameters in a GET request, we use HTTP URL and HTTP URL.parse. We pass it all the URL, anything before the question mark. So all of this stuff that we passed here. Before the question mark, and then these are key value pairs. So you have name, and this is the value, key and value, key and value. So this is the key and this is the value, and then you click you call build so that it can build the URL for you, and then you use the URL in the request whenever you need it. Okay, so that's how you make GET requests. So basically by default the requests are GET requests. So when you create a request builder, by default it's a GET request, and you can build the URL using this approach. Okay, that's one way. Another way to build the URL is to actually create a builder. So basically you could do an HTTP URL builder. Let's say builder equal new HTTP URL builder. You can create a builder, And then in the builder, you could say set scheme. The scheme. What is the scheme? Is HTTP or HTTPS. In that case, it's HTTPS. And it's chained. So basically very similar to what we did before. So this is the scheme. Here it is. And then the host. Where is the host? This is the host. Here it is. Here's our hosts. Right? And then there is path. There is path or set path segment. Here it is. So you can add set path segments, or you can add path segments, right? So basically, or add path segments. You can do that. Add path segment, or add path segments. You can do that also. So basically, we can do it like this. Let's say we will add path segments. Let's add, for example, the contacts. We can remove this. Let's say add path segment, and I'm gonna add, let's say which is the remaining part, this part. Right? Add contacts and this. So I'll do this. Here it is. And so I added the path segments, and then add query parameters. Here, add query parameter. Same story. Name and name. Here it is. And I can add another query parameter, which is type. Type. This is another way of doing this, and then that's the builder. If you want your URL, when you say if you go here and you say .build, and it returns an HTTP URL. See that? So basically that becomes your URL here. So basically when you do that, this is HTTP URL. That's the URL. Let's say 1 equals this. I can print it to show you what it's going to look like. Log D and URL 1. Here it is. So when you run it, we did run it, and you could see here the URL looks like this, and it has contacts, search, la la la. So basically the segments, we need to add them one by one. So this is the first segment. Okay, and let's add another segment, add path segment, and I will add the search one also. Now when you run it, you will see that it will be composed correctly. Here it is, see? So here it is. You have apps URL, contact, search, question mark, name equals, and so on. So you can build it using this way. This way you specify the host, you specify the scheme, you specify the segments one by one, and it has to be added in specific orders, because if you add search and then contacts, then search is going to appear first in the path. But anyway, that's one approach. The other approach is what I showed you here, which is very simple. Very, very simple. You basically take the whole path. The whole path, you put it here, and you say new builder, and then you add your parameters and build. This gives you the URL, and then you use the URL. All right. So basically, if I print that, the URLs, they are exactly the same. They will look exactly the same. Here's URL 1 and URL. If you run them, you will see that they look exactly the same. Here they are. They're exactly the same. All right. So basically, the nice thing about it is that, let's say I put a space in the name. Okay, let's put a space in the name, and I run it. You will see that it will automatically encode it. So you see here, it will put the percentage 20 automatically, right? If you don't have this percentage 20, this encoding will be incorrect, and then it will be encoded as a space, which will cause problems. So now to avoid, and it took care of the end signs for me. So let's use the builder when you are doing have query parameters. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.